All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's ePay Monthly Labor Forecast Dashboard webinar. My name is Christian Contreras, and I'll be leading today's session. And as we go through today, and as we do with all of our sessions, I do have everybody on mute. So we don't have that big of a group, but nevertheless, we do mute everybody, so that therefore we can kind of have no disruptions or any background noise. So all of the questions, if you have any questions during today's session, do me a favor, go to your control panel there that you have on, typically on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a little questions area that you can go ahead and type a question there for me, and it pops up on my screen. I'll be able to address it at the appropriate time in our conversations today. Now, I am also recording this session, so what I will do is I will post them out. I'll post a link out from the Gateway site that everyone's accustomed to using, or we can actually also post it out there on YouTube. And if you go out there to YouTube and just simply search for the phrase ePay for ISS Facility Services, you'll be able to go out there and see this webinar, but more importantly, see all the other recorded webinars we have out there on a variety of different topics that we've done over the course of the year. So our session today is actually going to be on the monthly labor forecast workspace. And the workspace that I'm showing here on the screen is that monthly labor workspace that was sent out. The updated version was sent out last week. And kind of going through here, as you go through here, obviously I do expect hopefully some questions to pop out of this. But as we go through here today, I'm going to go through and show you kind of an introductory first overview of the Hubble system, kind of some basic navigation. And then we'll go into the actual monthly labor forecast, kind of the overview of the actual workspace. And then after that, I'll actually go through a live demo and show you some of the key pieces of this workspace. First thing, one thing I'll direct everyone's attention to is, once you've actually gone into the Hubble workspace and actually have logged in to Hubble, there is a little instructions page right here in the middle of the screen. And that instructions page is actually key to this workspace. And one of the things you'll see here is going to give you a quick overview as to what that workspace does for you. So like I mentioned there, this dashboard is going to provide all of us on this phone call a forecast of hours and wages by job for the current calendar month. Keep in mind, current calendar month is the key here, because when we go into a monthly labor forecast, it's only going to show for the month of August in this case. If I log in today, it's only going to see August numbers. Now, as I go through here and through today's webinar, my goal here is to provide you a good explanation of this and actually have you a good basis to be able to go out here and address any labor issues and whatnot that you may have. Now I'm going to go through here and scroll down just a tad to the bottom of this instructions section. And you're going to actually notice that there are two links at the very bottom. And I'll kind of urge everybody to either do that. If you're on there right now, you're more than welcome to follow along by clicking on these two links. But the first link is called the Monthly Labor Forecast Guide, and it's going to give you an overview of the workspace. And I'm going to cover through that here momentarily, but it's going to kind of give you the whys and the whats of this workspace. The other link, the Hubble Navigation Guide, is where we're going to start first, and that gives you a brief overview, a brief navigation review on how to kind of navigate through the system. Now, looking at some of the names that are on this phone call, many of you have already attended other sessions. You've attended the ePay Compliance Dashboard webinar, in which I go through a lot of the same navigation. So a lot of that will be reviewed, and we'll probably go through that a little faster. But we're going to start here first, the Hubble Navigation Guide. And kind of like I mentioned, is you can actually just go to that link, click on it, and it's going to actually take you over to our Gateway site, in which it'll open up the document that's stored out there. From that document store here, you can actually see the Hubble Navigation Guide, and we're going to just go through it right now so you can actually just see some of the things that are covered in it. Now I want to go through here first and go through some of the different terms that are available to you, I guess, from the Hubble perspective. So some of the terms you're going to be hearing me use today, and some of the terms we'll be using as you get used to and comfortable using the actual Hubble product. We're going to go through how to log into Hubble. I'm going to show you a little bit on the workspaces, how to add a shared workspace whenever Anthony, myself, or Tiandra may actually go out there and share a workspace with you. We'll go through there and show you how to work with open workspaces. Then we'll go through about moving page to page, as well as going through some of the different drill downs that are available in here. And then lastly, I'm going to show you real quick how to export to Excel. These items that are on here that I'm going to go through as kind of a review for everybody are going to be kind of key when I go through the live demo, because I'll go through all these same steps and we'll actually go through and discuss all these kind of from a live demo perspective. So some of the terms that are going to be available for you. The first one is Workspace, and I've used that word already a couple times. Workspace is nothing more than the dashboard that you are going to be using. And each workspace is comprised of anywhere from one to multiple pages. So let me flip back over to my monthly labor forecast workspace here. And you'll notice here that this is really what the workspace looks like. This just really has some nice pictures, some graphics, some charts. Ultimately allows you to drill down into the data that's underlying on these numbers. If I go over here to Workspaces, I'll have the ability to pick the other workspaces that I have out there. And in this case, I'm going to quickly show you the ePay compliance dashboard. Notice it looks a little different. It's a little different setup. But nevertheless, these are the actual workspaces, nothing more than the dashboard that you're actually trying to use in Hubble. Page is another term, and page is nothing more than the screen of the workspace. In some cases, you may have one page. You may have six pages. Pages are the different screens that are available within the workspace, and each page can contain the next term panels, up to 8 panels of information. So kind of going back to the Hubble workspace, looking here on the monthly labor forecast, this is one page. And if you look down at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, I have a little page counter down here. It says page 1 of 6. That's telling you that you have 6 pages available of data to look at, of information. So we'll go through here, and I'll actually show you the 6 different pages of this monthly labor forecast here momentarily. But pages, that's kind of how you figure 6 different pages. Now within the actual monthly labor forecast here, on this particular overview page, and it's labeled at the top of the screen, there are 7 panels. So I'm going to go through a number here. Each of these panels is distinctive. It's got its own set of information, but there's 7 panels on this screen. So that's the word panel, so you can kind of see how that's broken out. Let me get back to my screen. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right. The next 2 key terms, charts. Charts are nothing more than pictures with multiple numbers from a list. So you can always click on a chart to open up a list. And this list is nothing more than a list of data or information. Same thing with the metric. If I click on a picture with one number from a list, I can always click that to open up that list. So essentially what that's basically saying is going back here to my dashboard view. If I go here and double click on any of these charts, these nice little pretty pictures that are on here, if I double click on that, that's going to pop up, it's going to help me to drill down into and pop up a list. And that list will contain information. So for example, one of the first things we'll talk about here in a little bit are projects over budget. These little yellow money bags. These little yellow symbols show that right now that we have 288 projects over budget. Well, if I double click on this particular graphic or this little particular chart, that's going to actually open up a data list of information for me, showing me those 288 projects that are over budget. So that's just one quick example, but I'll show you some other examples as we go into our live demo. List is, like I said, it's just data, rows of data that come up. Text, image, information only. Typically, they're not tied to a list. So example of a text or image you may encounter is this instructions area. This instructions section or instructions panel is really just an image that you can scroll through that doesn't drill down into data or other information. So that's a good example of a text or image. And then lastly, a refresh indicator. A refresh indicator is going to be a circular icon that's always going to appear in the lower right-hand corner of the panel, and that basically means that it's trying to reload or essentially pull in updated information for that specific chart, metric, or list. So a kind of example of that is if I were to actually go to another page here, let's just go here. And when I go to that page, I don't know if you notice at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, you'll see a little circle turning. That little circle is real tiny, but it's going to be turning there, letting you know. And you think when you go to a blank page here that it's not doing anything, but that circle is telling you that something is occurring. It's actually pulling in data. Same thing here. If I go back to my overview screen, you'll see each one of these here a little bit at the bottom. They were just refreshed a little while ago, so not refreshing again. But possibly you could actually see a little refresh indicator pop up out there. You'll see that fair amount of times today under our live demo, where you'll actually see these little squares or panels trying to update information. So those are a few of the terms that we'll be talking about today, and you'll hear me say from time to time. Now, everybody on this call should have access already to log in to the Hubble product, and it's basically it consists of a very simple URL in which you're going to go to the hubble.us.issworld.com link that's shown there. And when you go there, you'll actually be prompted to enter your username. Your username is always going to be your email address. That's your full email address, first name dot last name at us.issworld.com. And then you'll be asked to enter a password, and that password is going to be whatever password you set up for Hubble. Keep in mind, this is not your PC password. This is not your email password. This is strictly your password you set up for Hubble. Now, if you have not logged into Hubble before, the default password that we've used thus far is simply a capital H, UBBLE 1, so Hubble 1 with a capital H. That is typically the default password. And once you go in there the first time, the system will prompt you to change your password to something that you're going to remember, something that means something that means something to you. At which point, I recommend you keep it simple. The only criteria here is that it has to be 6 characters long. No criteria for a special character, uppercase, lowercase number, anything like that, as long as it's 6 characters long. And then lastly, after you've logged in, to finally log in, you'll click on Sign In, and Sign In will take you straight into what's we'll refer to as the Hub window. And that's kind of the entry screen once you get into Hubble. Now, all of these workspaces, let me flip back over to my monthly labor forecast. These workspaces are actually manually shared out with you. So once you've actually logged in the first time, there is one other step that's called setting up a profile, in which you'll have to go in there, essentially just enter your title to complete that profile process. Once you finish that profile, we're asking everyone to let us know that you've done that process, so we can actually share out the workspaces that you need to see. So in most cases, all of us have already logged in once. We've all actually gone in and played around a little bit, so we don't have to do that step. But for those that are new on this call that may have never logged in, once you set up that profile, let us know that you've done that, so we can actually go out and now share the monthly labor forecast workspace with you. Or maybe it's an ePay compliance dashboard workspace you need as well. We'll actually share that out with you separately. One of the questions that popped in here is, why can't I log into Hubble unless I'm using Google Chrome? Google Chrome works, and unfortunately I'm using that here as an example today, and that works perfectly fine. However, from a long-term perspective, I think Google Chrome is something that we do not want from an IT view of having our users use Google Chrome and install Google Chrome. So typically, some of the issues we've had recently is some of the versions of Internet Explorer that are being run out in the field are actually a little older than the most recent version. So once a help desk ticket is submitted for that, we can actually get that updated or upgraded for you on your computers, and then that typically takes care of the issue. But yeah, Firefox and Google Chrome, if you have those on your machine now, those do work perfectly fine with the Hubble Analytics piece. That was a good question. Thanks for asking. All right. So when we actually go and share a workspace with you, there's two ways that you get notified. And there is a section here, and the screenshot here on the view is probably a little small, but there is a piece on the main hub called Notifications. And I'm going to go over here to my hub screen. So when you log in, you go straight to this screen initially. And right here in the middle, I have a section called notifications. And right now I have a big 3-1 in the middle of the screen. That notifications number 31 is going to let me know that I have 31 new notifications that I have not marked as read. So of those of you, they may have heard me talk about this on a prior webinar, a different webinar. Bottom line, when you go in there and open up a notification, you have the ability to mark it as read, so it doesn't show up here as being an active notification. But this is one way of noticing you have a notification. The other way, obviously, is via email. You're going to be notified via an email message. It's going to let you know that Christian Contreras has shared a workspace with you, or Anthony Lackey has shared a new workspace with you. That email message should then key you that you need to come in here and actually look at your notifications in Hubble. And then when you actually go in there, you'll be able to see all the different workspaces that have been shared out with you. So what I would do is I would come back in here to Hubble, and down at the bottom right-hand corner of this little notification screen, there's a little upside down or kind of a counterclockwise arrow. When I click that, I can actually see my most recent notification listed here. Then I can actually just click on that particular notification box, and it gives me a whole listing of my notifications that are out there waiting for me. So from this, I can actually see that Anthony shared out that workspace on monthly labor forecast version 2 with me on August the 4th. So when I see this particular notification, I just click on the blue link that's right available for me. That blue link will then open up my workspace. Now, if I've already opened this workspace out, and I've been working with it, and I've used it already, that's going to lead me to my next conversation here momentarily with talking about open workspaces. But nevertheless, if I have a notification here and I click on it, system's either is going to A, open up that new workspace for you, or B, it's going to prompt you with this message letting you know that you already have a copy of this already open. So if you already have it open, all the system is going to do is going to let you know that, hey, you've already worked with this workspace version. Are you sure you want to open a new one, or do you want to use the existing one that you've already worked with? Now, working with an existing workspace, all that is it kind of leads me to my next conversation, the open workspaces. Open workspaces allows you to now, up here at the top left-hand corner, you have a little icon, allows you to go through and see all the different workspaces that you have been using. Now, the system inherently remembers where you left off. So let's say you had you're working on the monthly labor forecast. I drove down, pulled up some of my labor budgets, and I'm looking at them, and I have to step away real quick from my desk. By the time I come back to my desk, the system has logged me out. Well, Hubble remembers where you left off, and when I go back to these open workspaces and click on, for example, monthly labor forecast, it'll go back and open that up where I last left off. So keep that in mind. You have that as a tool in your back pocket. Now, on the flip side, let's say I drill down so far that I just can't find my way back to the main screen here. This is the screen I want to get back to. If that were to ever happen, there's no need to fret, because you can actually go back to your notification screen, go back to the hub screen, go back to your notifications, and when you go back to your notifications, all you go back is to go back to the one that was most recently sent to you. In this case, Anthony sent me this one on August the 4th, and this is the most recent version of the labor forecast. So if I wanted to reopen it, I would just click on this, and in this case, I could just go right back to where I last left off. I'm sorry, go back to the original version of that monthly labor forecast. So I have the ability, and this kind of the notifications is set up so that you can always go back to the original version should you ever need to. You have it there kind of as a fail-safe. If you ever get lost or go drill down or change something on the screen, you have the ability to go back to the original version. And as I mentioned, open workspaces, you access that from the top left-hand corner of your Hubble screen, and you go to Workspaces, pick the workspace that you want that's already been open, and then you can proceed from there. Now, if for some reason you're looking for a workspace that's not listed on here, you can always click on Browse All. There's an option there of the blue number 3 arrow, at which point you can browse all and search from the list of available workspaces that you can have access to. And moving page to page is the next thing, because now, as I mentioned, some of these workspaces may have one page, could have one page, some could have 10 pages. However, moving page to page is the way you're gonna have two options of doing this. The first option is using what referred to as a table of contents method. Option 2 is using the page left-right arrows. Now, if I go back over into my workspace for monthly labor forecast, I will show you the two different ways, and you'll quickly realize there's one way that's faster than the other. At the top of the screen, right now, I have a little icon that's called Table of Contents. And that little book icon allows me to see all my pages in a list. Down at the bottom, bottom right, I have what I said was like a page counter, but I have page 1 of 6. That's your left-right arrow that's going to allow you to increment by page, one at a time. So to that point, if I hit the drop-down on the table of contents, I can actually pick the page that I want to immediately go to. So if I want to go to page 5, which is called janitorial production rate in this particular dashboard, this particular workspace, I could actually go through and go straight to page 5. If I use the left-right arrows at the bottom, I could only advance one page at a time, meaning if I want to go to page 5, I have to click, wait for it to refresh, click again, wait for refresh, click again, and so forth until I got to page 5. So two options there on moving around on your pages, but I would recommend the table of contents route as being the fastest and easiest way to navigate. Continuing on, drill down by list. One thing that you're going to find is what makes this tool very powerful is you have access to seeing information from your list at different granular levels. So you can actually go from a company level, be able to drill down into a district, or more so come from a district level and then drill down to a specific job or jobs. And then even from the job level, you could actually drill down into a timesheet view. The timesheet view is going to be pretty interesting here a little bit when I demo it, because you will be able to see all the timesheet entries that have been recorded by your employees through ePay's Blue Force program. So all this is just a kind of a setup as you go through here. Now, one term that I'll be using a little later are breadcrumbs, and that's noted here in number 4. Once you go through any of the list views, you have kind of a drill down history per se, or a hierarchy that pops up that you can actually refer to as the term breadcrumbs. Kind of leaves you a trail of where you started to where you are currently are. So if you wanted to go back one step, you could click on the prior breadcrumb and go back to the previous view or list view. If you want to go to the original list view, you click on the very first breadcrumb to take you all the way back to the beginning. So I'll show you this here in a little bit in a live demo so you can actually see how that actually works. Export list to Excel. So what that basically means is it gives you the opportunity now to take any of this list data that appears. So any of these list views have some labor budget information, or maybe it has just your variance information, and you want to share it with others on your team. Well, what you could actually do is come in, go to that list view, click anywhere in that list view to actually kind of highlight the area. And it's very faint on this screenshot, but I'm going to show you this here in a little bit when we do the live demo. There is a small little dotted line that appears right around the edge here. It's hard to see, but it appears all the way around the edge there. But nevertheless, that small little dotted line is basically telling the system that you selected that particular list view. And I can go up to the top right-hand corner of that list view. There's some 3 little dots, and it looks like a little ellipse standing up on end that you can click on. And that little, those 3 dots will pop up a drop-down menu, or what's referred to as a list view menu, to which now you can click on an option called Save Excel. What that does, it immediately pops up a window that will tell you to now open up that view in an Excel format. So you essentially download it into Excel, and now from that you can now sort, you can filter, you can slice and dice that information any way, shape, form you want. It's totally out of Hubble into an Excel format. And that is actually a pretty cool option, and I'll be using that quite a bit in our demo here momentarily. And that is the last page of our Hubble navigation kind of overview or review. Now, going back to the Hubble workspace, back to my instructions page here in the middle. And once, like I mentioned, if you joined us late, I just mentioned that I would highly recommend that you come into this instructions and actually download or save these to your computer. That way you can or print them out if you really need to, but these are good guides for you to use as you're using this product. The first link is highlighted right now. It's called Monthly Labor Forecast Guide, and this is the one that's going to actually talk about how to use, or what's the purpose, the whys, the all the W's, the who, what, where, why, and how to use a monthly labor forecast. So kind of going through that. This is really the outline as to how we're going to go through and kind of discuss the purpose and whatnot of the monthly labor forecast. So we're going to start off. I'm going to talk about real quick about the expected usage and intended purpose of this tool. We're going to go through and talk about the overview and features of it. So we'll talk about the key drill down list. Kind of levels you can drill down into. We're going to talk about the data sources. All these monthly labor forecasts have all this data. Where does it come from? So it comes from the actuals, the averages, budgets. And we're going to talk about pay types and spend categories. So I'm going to show you how those tie into the big picture. We'll go through some drill down lists. We'll go through some the big question of why our labor analysis is separated by billing type when we actually use this tool. And then we'll wrap up with a production rate calculation, and it'll take us straight into our live demo. So once again, this is all off of the link under instructions on the monthly labor forecast workspace. Alrighty, so what the first question is what is the expected use or usage of this monthly labor forecast? So we're expecting all levels of management, basically everyone that's on this phone call today, to spend anywhere from 5 minutes, typically 5 to 10 minutes a day. It says 5 to 20 minutes, depending if we have a few more jobs. But in all reality, we want everyone to log in daily to keep tabs of their monthly labor. Our intended purpose here, obviously, is to go ahead and go through here and discover and fix labor issues as early as possible. Initially, one of the key things about this is you're going to be able to go in there and have full visibility as how your jobs are doing for the month, obviously, but more importantly, you'll be able to go and see actuals, and we'll refer to as averages going out. So there's not going to be no secret come the end of the month. If you're over budget, massively over budget, there's no secret at the end of the month as to, or at any point during the month, that you can actually try to do something to curtail that or help yourself with that. So second part of this purpose is obviously to ensure labor budgets are current. So as we go through this and review this process, we want to make sure that our labor budgets are current because it's going to affect our numbers. If you see something that's wrong, or you're one of those fortunate ones that doesn't have a budget yet, what I would do is that you would actually go in there and correct that. Now, one of the examples that happened this morning on a previous call we had was that we actually and saw that one of the jobs was approximately $700. At this point in the month, obviously we're only a third of the way of the month, but we're already over $700 over budget. Coming to find out and kind of drilling down into that information, drilling down into that job a little bit, we found out that the timesheet showed us that we had 3 employees working every day. But if we drill down into the actual labor budget, and I'm going to show you all this example here in a little bit, but if I drill down into the actual labor budget, I found out that the job was only budgeted for 2 bodies, so 2 people, and we're running 3. So hence, real quick, that's something that thank God we caught it with 10 days into the month, and have opportunity now to fix that outcome. And then once we go through here, I'm also going to talk about the budget update process, because if you have a scenario like this where you have to add another increased headcount, or you need to go in there and make any type of labor budget change, the general process is that your managers, the district managers, the director of ops, and so forth, would actually go through and send a recommendation for those budget changes to the general manager at the office. The general manager there, and you know who you are, will then send those approved budget changes to the operational support group, and that's typically Jade and Joe. Those are the 2 individuals you've dealt with thus far. and they'll be the ones that actually update that those numbers for you. Once those numbers are updated in the system into JD Edwards, those changes will be reflected immediately. So if you went back into your monthly labor forecast, those numbers will now reflect correctly, and your numbers would be hopefully a lot better. Now, as a quick overview and some of the way our workspaces are set up here is, first off, the workspaces that you will see here momentarily are going to be providing you a real-time labor forecast strictly for hourly workers. And it's only for the current month. So I can stress that enough. It's only for the current month. If I log in today, it's only going to be for August. Does not include any salaried personnel that are on a job. And one of the questions also came up earlier in an earlier session I did was that we have salaried employees that that do get salaried employees that show up in Blue Force, and that at times I may want to code to a job. Well, those salaried employees do not get figured into any of the items that that you're shown here in your monthly labor forecast. The workspace, keep in mind, is going to show you a section that's going to be focused on fixed fee and square foot jobs. And one of the main reasons we broke those jobs up separately from the other jobs listed here, for example, cost plus jobs, service day based jobs, loaded rate type jobs, progress, etc., is because we can't fix overruns for the fixed fee and square foot jobs. So it's more important that we keep close looks and do those daily reviews of those fixed fee and square foot jobs. And one of the features that you'll see here in the workspace is production rates. And we did production rates for just the janitorial jobs, but you'll be able to go to a page in this workspace and see your production rates. What exactly is going on with your jobs. But once again, these are just for the jobs that have been deemed janitorial jobs. And I'll go to a little bit more into that here momentarily. And as you go through here, each workspace has a following key drill down list. And what I mean by that is you can actually go into the different drill downs, go to the company level, and you'll see here momentarily when I pull up mine that I can actually go to a company level and actually drill down and see my information or my list views based on projects, districts, jobs, and even daily hours. Or even more importantly, I can take my district level and drill down into the jobs, or more importantly, take a bigger level project and drill down into those different jobs that are available in that project. But more importantly, I can take from that job level, go into the different timesheets. I can see the timesheet view, which includes obviously also manual timesheets in there. Manual timesheets being your interim time or back pay time that you enter over in Blue Force. I can go in there and see a view of timesheet no totals. I can also see my daily hours, and daily hours being the first day of the month, second day of the month, third day of the month, and so forth. And labor budgets being what exactly is my labor? What are my positions that I have at the job site, and what are my tasks that are being worked, and how many custodians do I have working at $9 an hour? You can see that part of your labor budget. From the job screen, I have really essentially the same drill down capabilities. So these are some key drill down lists that we'll go through. You'll see this more from my live demo here shortly. All right. So in talking about data sources, we talked about each workspace being real time. I mentioned that a couple of times, and it's strictly for hourly workers and strictly for the current month you're in. So if I go in here on August the 1st, you have to know that I'm looking at August numbers. If I go to August the 15th, obviously I'm looking at August. One of the key things to keep in mind, it's only for the current month. We can't do anything about July because July is already done, and we haven't even started September yet, so we're focused on the current month. Now each workspace includes data from three key areas. The first area is the actuals being actual labor from ePay. So whatever is keyed into there, or whatever is collected by the time of whatever time is collected from the employees there. that appears on the timesheet or the manual timesheet in Blueforce will populate down to the monthly labor forecast. Average labor, we also pull in the average labor component that is basically looking at the timesheet and manual timesheet as well. But what it's actually doing is the averages are actually going to be based on the last 5 weeks. And I'm going to go into a little more detail here on that momentarily, so hold that thought. And then the third point, it looks at the workspace includes data from budget labor, which is actually the J.D. Edwards operating budget. Now, looking at this little spreadsheet view down at the bottom, the workspace shows actual labor from the start of the month through 2 days ago, and average labor through the end of the month as follows. So what that basically means is if I'm looking at May the 1st, and like I said in this example here, we can use August the 1st for that matter. I come in here on August the 1st and look at my my daily labor. I'm going to go in here and find out that everything is going to be on an average because we have no actuals in the month of August or the current month you're in. If I went back in on May the in this example shows May the 4th, I would notice that since we have a 2-day lag, that 2-day lag would essentially mean that the first 2 days of the month, the first and second, will show me now actuals, with the third and fourth being average, and any day to the end of the month also being an average. Same thing with the 6th of the month, and so forth. The first 4 days would show actuals. My 2-day lag, obviously the 5th and 6th would show averages, with then everything from the 7th on to the 31st as being averaged out as well. Now that 2-day lag is there for a reason, because obviously over on the ePay compliance side, we ask that everyone within a 24-hour period go out there and make sure that all of your open punches are corrected. Any missed punches, any punches needing approvals, for example, a fingerprint mismatch, someone called in from an unregistered phone number, that is key to this monthly labor forecast being correct. So we ask that within that 24-hour period, we have everyone fix those punches. And when you come back to that monthly labor forecast here, that 2-day lag is really just average for that reason, because we're still having things being fixed in the system. We want to make sure that we give everyone ample time to go in and get those things done, so that way the report does mean something when they come back in here. Now keep in mind, if you fail to do any of those changes, we don't go in there and fix those punches that have issues. If we were to go back in there and not enter maybe manual time into Blueforce that maybe an employee had an issue clocking in, if we didn't go in there and manually enter that time within that 2-day lag, those would actually all lead to the monthly labor forecast to be severely misstated. So it's very key that we keep our processes going like we're doing over in ePay and reviewing on a daily basis. And as I've stressed on and gone on my soapbox many times on other webinars, it's a 5 to 10 minute process tops to go in there, look at those bad punches, correct them, and move on with your day. So actuals, when we talk about strictly actuals out of this big puzzle, the actuals are pulled from ePay, like I said, from the timesheet and manual timesheet. The workspace is always going to show average labor for the prior day to allow operations one full business day to ensure that the labor through the 2 days is also, through 2 days ago, is accurate. And that means that all of our operators need to ensure that the following issues are resolved in ePay by the end of the next business day. And this kind of goes to what I just mentioned. Open and partial punches, those have to be taken care of ASAP because the forecast will be understated until those open and partial punches are resolved. Manual time, forecast obviously will be understated because the manual time has not been entered. And obviously manual time is not really a good thing. If we're finding that we have a lot of jobs or just simply a lot of employees that are using or having all their time manually entered in the system, we need to eliminate that wherever possible. We need to put in clocks, we need to put in phones, whatever it needs, so that way the system can control their punches. It means the employee punches in and punches out on their own. Work orders. On any contract jobs we have out there, and we have a work order that we're going to do work for, The forecast will also be overstated if the contract job, for the contract job, if that work order is not used. So in Blue Force, it is very important that we're actually going into Blue Force and coding our time properly to the applicable work order if need be. Now, in all these cases, once these changes are actually populated over in Blue Force, obviously they're going to be transferred over and available over in Hubble. The component of averages, which are calculated by ePay, and they're calculated based on a 5-week average of hours and dollars worked by job by day. So that basically means that the averages are going to be used in the workspace to forecast the job's labor spend through the remainder of the current month. So here we are on the 10th of August. Based on the 10th of August, based on that number, the 2-day lag, obviously is on the 9th and 10th, we'll be using averages to figure out 9th and 10th and anything to the end of the month. We'll be using these averages to figure out our forecast. However, the 1st through the 8th, in this case, August 1st through the 8th, when I look in here momentarily, I'll actually see actuals available to you. Now, the way this works is every Thursday morning, and it runs about 12:15 a.m., a program runs to recalculate all the averages for all the jobs straight across the board. So the program is going to pull out the hours that are worked, and it's not going to pull in anything that's PTO related. This is strictly worked hours. It's going to exclude the time that's coded to work orders for the last 5 weeks, and it's going to determine an average per day of the week, Saturday through Friday, and populate a value by day for each day in the current calendar month. So if you've been running 40 hours every Monday, then your average is going to show you a forecasted amount of 40 hours. Exception. Now, this is a holiday involved. For example, we have a holiday coming up, and some jobs do not work on Labor Day. If there was a holiday within that month, then that program is going to use the job's budget, holiday, and labor settings to adjust the average for that day as follows. If there is a job and there's a job with a holiday, and then holiday is deemed as a no-pay day, then the hours are going to be adjusted to 0. If that holiday is actually a day that requires premium pay, then the amount's going to be increased accordingly. And lastly, if obviously there are some employees that are set to work holidays, others that are not, obviously, but some are set to work holidays, the hours and the dollars are going to be prorated accordingly. So all this, once again, all these holidays exceptions are automatically taken into consideration. August, we don't have an example. I know July we had a nice example with the 4th of July. But nevertheless, coming up next month, you will hopefully see it with the Labor Day holiday coming up. And lastly, the third component here is the budget. The budget is actually calculated from J.D. Edwards. And it's actually pretty interesting because the budgets are actually pulled in from J.D. Edwards' operating budget. And for those that have some little financial background and kind of know how everything's working, that's straight from our OB ledger. But the JDE labor budget, including the labor accrual, which right now is represented on a 21.75 level budget, because this workspace that we're using is based on calendar days in a month, the labor budget from JDE is programmatically adjusted up or down based on the number of days in the current month. So that means that if we look back in July had 21 days in a month, whereas August currently now has 23 days in a month. So your budget now in August is going to be substantially larger because of those 2 days than it was in July. Now this table down below, so you can see on the screen, it's going to show you that adjustment for a job that was budgeted 100 hours and 1,000 per day. And the way it's figured out is in July, if you look at July there, July, based on that 21.75 budgeted amount, based on that 21.75 labor accrual, the budget amount is simply $21,750. If that workspace, if the workspace we're using now, you actually use that budget, this job would appear then to be under budget by $750, and we're going to be under budget. So you're going to think, okay, well, I've got $750 to play with. Well, the monthly labor forecast budget amount actually for just this month of July is $21,000, because what we actually do is take that number of work days times that $21,000 per day and actually give you a true picture based on days worked in a month. So when you're looking at the budget, you're actually, like I said, month to month, the system will actually programmatically adjust the number of days in the current month based, will normally adjust the number of days in the month. All right. Next part of the puzzle here are your pay types and spend categories. One of the things you'll notice is when you go into our timesheet views, what we did in the system is that we actually have, obviously you know that when you code time in Blueforce, the rate type will determine two things. It's going to determine the GL account number, and it's also going to tell you the spend category over in our monthly labor forecast workspace. Now in your workspaces, if you drill down into the timesheet views, those list views are going to be color-coded for your convenience. So in saying that, if I actually go in here and actually look at the spend categories, you'll notice here, and it's kind of hard to see, and you may have to see if you can zoom in on your end there, but the spend category, and I'm going to circle that column, you'll see is all nice and color-coded. If it's in a white color background, the spend category is basically worked hours. If it's here in a orange background, it is worked hours, but it's considered as back pay. So those situations where you may have gone into a manual timesheet and entered some back pay for hours that were not entered, or from last pay period that the employee didn't get paid for. The reds are going to be noted as non-worked hours. So the reds here are going to be any scenarios where you may pay the employee some type of pay, but they're non-work scenarios, for example, as bereavement or jury duty, or like our aviation group has a snow pay. So there's kind of different options of snow train, sorry, one of the options they have there. PTO will appear in blue, and that's letting you know that when you look at those timesheet views, it stands out of those scenarios where you've paid personal time off, like sick leave, vacations, personal time, stuff of that nature. And then lastly, at the very bottom, you have the green section, which is other, which takes into consideration any scenario we pay out of the system, pay out of Blueforce, that deals with uniforms, parking, mileage, and meal reimbursements. And then if we go over here to the last points of those bullets, one thing I'll show you here momentarily when we go into the system is you'll actually be able to quickly tell any overtime situations from a timesheet view. So I go to that list view under timesheet, and I actually go there and see any time that I've had overtime, that line would be bolded for your viewing pleasure, I guess you're going to say. You can quickly see it that it's in bold. And lastly, anytime you use a work order, that'll be italicized. So these are set up to draw attention as you go through here and see the different timesheet lists. All righty. All right. So the big question here is, why is labor analysis separated by billing type? Well, as I mentioned a while ago, obviously we have fixed fee and square foot versus the other types of, like, including cost plus, loaded rate, attendance, service day, etc. They're separate, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, is we can't control the cost overruns under fixed fee and square foot, so we want to keep those separate from cost plus. But the major reason it's separated is if we put them all into one big bucket. When you actually roll up the labor variance figure and include everything together, any labor budget shortfalls in the fixed fee square foot jobs will be masked by any other labor budget gains in the cost plus side. So that basically means if I go here in this example, notice my spreadsheet here, I show a cost plus job that has a 5% fee or markup. That actual labor for that cost plus job is $14,000. However, we had a budgeted labor of $15,000, meaning that we actually came out ahead. We had a $1,000 surplus. However, we had a fixed fee job in the same bucket that had a $5,000 actual labor, but was only budgeted $4,000, so we actually lost $1,000. From a big picture, the total of this bucket per se would be zero. It looks like we had a wash, we broke even. However, what would actually otherwise falsely appear to be a zero variance is actually a $1,000 overrun in fixed fee expense and actually a $50 shortfall in cost plus revenue. So it makes a big difference the way it's set up now. So that is the main reason why when you go in here shortly and we actually do a live demo, you'll see fixed fee and square foot separated from everything else. All right. So let's move on. There are some questions here that I'll address here momentarily when I do a live demo, so you can kind of see some more of those questions as they play out. All right. So the last slide here is the production rate calculation. And like I mentioned, there is a page that I'll be sharing with you here momentarily during a live demo that you can actually see the production rates that are set up. Now, production rates are only going to be set up for those janitorial jobs, so jobs that have a business unit type of JB, and it's only going to be for line of business 11, which is janitorial, and only for active. Now, one thing that we add that should be added on this is a day services flag, because in here we're removing the day services from that production rate because obviously we're looking only at janitorial. And you'll see that the production rate there is actually calculated by looking at the calculated square footage times days. And the calculated square footage there is actually a figure that's already, sorry, I'm skipping ahead here, sorry. That production rate is what's actually used to determine, and you'll actually see it on the actual production rate page here momentarily. Now, the hours worked to date are included. Now, if you look at that, we only look at contract jobs. We only look at rate codes 1, 150, and 115, which are the regular overtime and holiday work codes. We're only looking at tasks that are cleaning related, minus, like I mentioned, we're excluding the day services tasks. They're not part of this equation. And then the key thing here to keep in mind is we're taking that calculated square footage, which is basically your total square foot minus your vacant square footage. So you'll see here momentarily in live demo where you can actually see what you're currently cleaning and what is the full capacity of that building. And then you'll also go to see the number of days that you've worked to date. So if we've only worked 4 days of that job, then it's only going to show 4 on this particular report, although we're on day 10 now of the month. So I'll go through and re-explain it a little bit better on when we actually see that particular workspace page. All right. So that was the end of that particular monthly labor forecast guide. And like I mentioned to everyone, this guide is actually available right here off the bat under monthly labor forecast under instructions. So let's go in and let's take a little test drive of the system here. Let's go look at the variety of different panels that we have available for you with all the different pieces of data that make up this monthly labor forecast. So right off the bat, when you go into the monthly labor forecast, you should be taken the first time to Overview. This Overview screen, and once again, the Overview screen is nothing more than this little title up here. It's going to provide you 7 panels of information. We're going to look first at this one down here with the yellow, I'll call them yellow money bags here, but the little yellow icons here. You're going to notice there that this panel is labeled as Projects Over Budget. This panel is going to show you when you log in, and once again, let me backtrack here. Your login is going to be based on the access. Well, first off, access is going to be driven by whatever company access you have, whatever district access you have, or whatever business unit access you have in JDE. Now, the key thing here is you may or may not be an active user in JD Edwards, but to set up a user for Hubble, we have to set you up in JD Edwards. You may never log in JD Edwards, and that might be perfectly fine, but in order to get access to Hubble, we must establish you as a JDE user, and that's where we're driving the access from. The lowest level that we can actually go through is a district level, so we can't give someone just access to one job in here. It has to be at the district level. So just know that if you have some district managers out there that have multiple, that maybe two managers that share a district, just know that when they go in here, they're going to see a few extra jobs, and that's quite all right. Not going to hurt anything. All right. So as we go through here, like I said, projects over budget is the first one we're going to look at. And this one is actually, like I said, going to show you, first off, it's showing you 288 jobs are over budget. What that basically is telling me that because of my access, and I have access to every job across the company, that means that I have 288 jobs right now that across the company that are over budget. And right now we're looking at a shortfall of about 348,000 because of that. Now don't panic out there because it's not really that bad. We're going to find out here as soon as we go in here. We're going to find out the true reason as to why that they're over budget, and you're going to be quite surprised why that is. So let me go ahead in here, and once again, like I said, when you log in here, you're only going to see your jobs. For basis of today's training, I'm using my full access, and I'm going to be able to go in here and see everybody's job. Now, when I double-click on that little panel, it made that picture the forefront of my screen, and you'll see that these money bags, like you're calling them, are humongous. If you wanted to get more space to see the data at the bottom of the screen, I can go in this little middle bar, anywhere in the middle bar, and then just put my mouse pointer there, and I don't know if you'll notice that the mouse changed from a white arrow to a double black arrow. Make sure, if I go in here and just drag up that window up a little bit, you'll see that the actual charts and the graphic, whatever it may be up at the top at the time, will become smaller and give you more information at the bottom of the screen with some information. So at this point, I have the information in my list view that pops up, and really what we've told the system is from the panel, it's told me I had 288 jobs over budget. So that means when I double click on that panel, the system's going to return those 288 jobs that are over budget and provide me the information behind that. Now, if you look at the list view, you'll see the yellow coloring there. The yellow coloring is letting you know that's the amount of variance right now that you are over budget on for these particular projects. So in this case, I have all these projects listed, and I'm going to pick on the first one. So if anyone is related to BA systems on this phone call, don't think I'm picking on you. I'm just using this because it's the first example on the list here. But BA systems shows that there's 15 jobs, and I'm going to go over here and show you there's 15 jobs under that project. Total variance is 69,970. Well, from a project level, you're not doing well. But maybe from a singular job level, maybe you are. Maybe 14 jobs are doing well, and you have that one bad apple that's giving you trouble. Well, for that perspective, if I wanted to now drill down to the job and actually see my summary labor by job, what I could actually do is go over, just hover your mouse over BAE systems, right-click over that particular project, and you'll see you have some different options on drilling down into. So if I can now drill into the summary labor by job, which we're going to do, I can also drill down to the actual timesheet and see all the timesheet entries for this project. I can go in here and see the labor budget for this project, and I can also drill down to the manual timesheet. The best way, I think, first for everyone to do is go into the summary labor by job, so you can actually see the 15 jobs that make up this project, and actually see them individually, see how really bad off we are. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm just going to right-click, go to the list, the menu that pops up, and select that drill to summary labor by job. Now, if you look at the bottom right-hand side, you'll see the refresh indicator circling down there. This is perfectly normal. What it's going to do is actually going through and going to pull in all the updated information for the project for BA systems and all the related jobs. Now, as I mentioned, is don't panic. I know if you're on the call and this is one of your jobs, don't panic yet, because what this view is going to show you is the 15 jobs that made up this project. You will be able to see the variances for each job listed in orange. You can see there that some of these jobs are on the negative side. But if I scroll over, and there's a little scroll bar at the bottom of the screen, you're going to quickly notice that you see some nice red. That red is letting you know that these jobs do not have budgets in JD Edwards. So at this point, it becomes critical that you, the manager, get with your general manager and make sure that we get the updated information for these budgets to the operational support group. So that's either Jade or Joe, depending on who you've been working with, and we'll get these budgets updated in the system. Once they are updated in the system, this Hubble dashboard will update, and you will automatically see the drastic change to your numbers. So you won't hopefully be in the on the negative side, or maybe not as bad as it was now. So kind of more so with this as well, as we go through here, if, let's say, there is a change to labor budget, maybe for some reason you see that you need to add a budget, or maybe, I'm going to go in the case of Columbia here. Maybe you need to go in here and add another person, so you're going to change the head count, or there's a rate change. All of these factors that affect the labor budget need to be submitted to the operational support group, and it's a quick way of doing that. What I always suggest is if you come in here to this particular view, and all I've done, and just so everyone's on the same page of getting how I got here, from the main overview screen, I clicked on the panel that's labeled Projects Over Budget. Once I double click on that, that took me over to a list of all my projects that are shown as over budget. And I just simply picked that first project on the list, the one that I wanted to work with today, which was BAE Systems. And when I right-click on BAE Systems, the first option is Summary Labor by Job. So I can drill down to the Summary Labor by Job, and exactly what I want to do, because I want to know how my project is doing at the job level. So now I have the 15 jobs that will pop up here momentarily. And every time you go into these screens, the refresh indicator is going to try to update the information to make sure nothing's changed out there for you. Once the 15 jobs were returned in this case here for me, I can now pick the job that I need to work with, right-click on that job, and I have the ability now to drill down to the labor budget. Now, in this case, you want to work with that labor budget on the individual job. So when I right-click and drill down to labor budget, I have the ability now to see how that labor budget actually looks for that particular job. So this job, BAE Systems Columbia, right now we have one employee. That's the EMP column. And that one employee is getting paid $11.50 rate. And he's a custodian. And right now he's working about 40 hours weekly. That's your one position. But let's say you have to make a change. You're getting more business here. You have another custodian needed for this job. The best way to do this is simply export this labor budget, put it into Excel, and make your recommendations or those changes on that Excel spreadsheet, and then send it off to your GM first to approve. But then from there, the GM can send it off to the operations support group. It's a very simple process. From the labor budget view here, list view, I can actually go up to the right-hand corner of that list view area, and I actually go through here and see an option called View Options that pops up, to which I can now click on Save Excel. Okay, and it's important to be able to see this menu. Is you have to physically click on the data down at the bottom of the screen of the list view. Once I have that view selected, you'll see the little blue lines, the little blue dots that kind of surround the whole view. Then I can click on the three dots and then select Save Excel from the list view menu. Now, at this point, it says Download. This is an option, a screen that you would see if you're using Google Chrome. It's going to automatically say, do you want to download this into Excel from, do you want to download the Excel spreadsheet into this particular view for you? So when I click on Download, down at the bottom left, you'll see the Excel spreadsheet sitting there. I can then just click on it, and it'll open it up on my screen. Unfortunately, it's on my other screen, so let me move it over to this primary screen. There we go. And now I have the job information. I have everything as I saw it on the labor budget view a short while ago. Now let's say you were going to add a new position. Let's say we need to change the head count. We're still going to get paid $9.50, but we just need to change the head count. Well, in that case, what I recommend is you're just going to go ahead and just come down here to the bottom and just type in change head count or some little note there to let the operational support group know that what you're intending to do here. Well, then all I would do is just come up, copy that line that I want to work with. There's no need to recreate the whole process here. Just go ahead and just copy and paste. Go over here and just simply highlight the number of employees and make the change. Maybe you're going from 1 to 2 positions. That's all you have to do. Once you've changed that head count, you've noted that that is exactly what you wanted to do. It doesn't hurt to highlight the intent here. But once you've done these 2 steps, you've done the spreadsheets there available for you, and you're really done. You've already told the system, or you've told the spreadsheet what exactly you wanted to do. At this point, you can now share this spreadsheet with your general manager, or if the general manager is doing this, you can share it with the operational support group. And it's very simple. Once you have this in an Excel format and you've made your notes, go to File, and then come down to the option called Share. When you click on Share, that's going to give you an option to share by email. Now, you have some other options here, but email is the way we want to go. When I click on Email, I then have the ability to send it as an attachment. So once again, from the Excel export that you just did, you go into the File, click on Share, you click on Email, and then lastly you click on Send as Attachment. And when I click on Send as Attachment, it'll actually open up your Outlook email for you, and it'll open it up on my other screen again, so let me move it over. And you'll notice that your document is here. If you need to change a subject, you can. Otherwise, address it to whomever you're going to get approval for. So if I'm going to send this to Anthony and I need to have his approval for this case, I could actually put his name here and just hit send. If I need to put a little note down here, I could. But really, your email's done. I send it, he's got it, and we're off to the races. Now, one thing you could do, you notice that the name right now shows labor budget settings by job 4. What you could do before you actually shared, you could save it locally as something on your machine if you want to save this change locally, and then do the file share. And when you do that share, at that point, whatever you call that document or whatever you call that Excel spreadsheet would populate in the attached line here. So you'll actually see that name of that document. So if you want to name it job 50001 main building and save that off and then go and do the file share, that name of that document would appear right here and attached, as well as the subject line. So once again, all I did is a very simple process. Is once I actually got in to my my labor budget view, this view, went up to the top right hand corner, hit those 3 dots and selected Save Excel, and then download. It opened it up in Excel. And then go ahead at this point, if you want to, file save as, so you can save it off. Or if you're going to do file share, that's perfectly fine. But I think it is strongly recommended that you actually go in there and at least include your job number in the subject line. So it actually means something to someone when they're looking at. So that was my job number. I can do something like that. But as long as you note that job number in there, I think it'll be a good thing. Alrighty. Alright, so let's moving right along here. So let me go back here. I'm going to close my Excel spreadsheet. And I'm here in the my labor budget view, list view still. And some managers decide, I'm here. What do I do? How do I get out of here? Do I have to close out everything? Do I need to go back and log out, log back in? How do I get back to where I started all this mess? Well, there's 2 ways. First thing I'll point out is you have the option to close. The close button is an X button that's available right here at the top right-hand corner of the list view. And by hitting that X will actually close you out and take you back to the overview screen. And I'll do that here momentarily so you can actually see what's going to happen. Secondarily, that might not be what you want to do because you don't want to actually have to go back and start all over. The second thing you can actually do is you have what's called those breadcrumbs. Basically, it's a little trail that's been left of every drill down you've gone to. You're currently under labor budget settings by job. If I want to go back one level, back to all the jobs, I could actually do that by clicking there. Or I could actually go back here and click to the original view that I started off this mess. So either way, the breadcrumbs are there for your quick reference, and so you don't have to go all the way back out and get back in. So for example, if I want to go back one step here, I could click back on my prior breadcrumb. It takes you back to my list of my jobs, at which point now I can go to another job and do the same thing there. Maybe I want to go to Merrimack now and look at that particular labor budget. So now I have that budget on my screen. If I need to go back, I could go back to that same breadcrumb one again, go back one breadcrumb, do the same thing again, and so forth. Now the other option, like I said, is that X. If I click on the X to close, it takes me back to my overview screen. So from that perspective, then I'd have to go back into my project over budget if I was still working with it, go in there, go into my drill down to BAE systems, go back into drill down to the jobs, and so forth. All right, so I'm going to actually go back in. I'm going to go back into BAE systems. I'll go back into the summary labor by job. But this time, I'm going to go into one of the jobs. I want to actually drill down into one of the views called timesheet. Now, as I mentioned, the timesheet view is going to show you a listing of all the different time transactions that have occurred over in Blue Force in the month of, or the current month you're in, so the month of August in this case. So, for example, if I want to go into, let's say, let's do one that's got a little bit more labor. Let's do let's do York down here. All right, so if I right-click on BAE Systems York, one of the options I have there is drill to timesheet. Now, the way the timesheet actually works here is if I click on drill to timesheet, this is going to show you a listing of all the different transactions that have populated for the month of August. Now, as we go through here, you will also notice that you have some of the punches maybe for today, for example, 810, have already populated. So the way this works is the project's over budget, and you drill down to the timesheet. The timesheet view is always going to show you actual punches that have been completed over in Blue Force, meaning that an employee has punched in and punched out. To that point, you'll actually be able to go in here and see those completed punches. So right now we have one employee that's completed a 4-hour punch today at this job site. Now, also as you go through here, notice that some are bolded. And I'm going to go through real quick and refer back to that one slide that we talked about, the spend categories. So keep in mind when I mentioned this slide earlier, anytime you have worked hours, they're going to appear with a white background. So right now, if I go back to my Hubble Workspace, most of these are actually in a white background. They're all worked hours. There's no personal. There's no other currently listed on this particular job. Now, if I go back in here, you'll notice that if there were any non-work scenarios, for example, if we had coded any jury duty or any holiday non-worked or training rate types to this particular job for the month of August, those would have appeared in red in that particular timesheet screen. Blue, PTO in blue and other in green. But one thing you'll notice is bolded items are overtime scenarios. So if I go over here and look at any of the bolded ones that I show in here, BAE Systems York on August the 5th accumulated 1 hour overtime, and this was your actual employee that actually worked that overtime. Same thing on the 5th, another employee worked an hour of overtime, and his name was Robert Frias, and there's his entry. But this view will actually show you the amount that they earned as part of overtime, what their actual pay rate, overtime in this case pay rate would be, and kind of gives you the kind of big picture as to how it was accumulated over on the Blue Force side. So once again, this may not be the best example, but I don't know if this job did not have any other spend categories coded to it at this point. But keep in mind, if, for example, this 6.75 hours that I'm highlighting right here was entered as personal time, then obviously this would appear in blue background straight across the board, alerting you and kind of drawing your attention to that particular line that you know that exactly it was PTO. So the timesheet views are all geared this way, so you can actually see that detail of all the punches, not necessarily the punches, but all the time that is accumulated on the job over in Blue Force. Using my breadcrumbs here, I'm going to go back one level. I'm going to go back up to the labor by job, so you see all my jobs again. And this time I'm going to go and right-click on York, and I'm going to go to the other view called Drill to Daily Labors. All right, so down at the bottom, it shows the structure that pops up, but down at the bottom it's still filtering up. So I'll give it a second. So when it pops up here, this view is actually going to show me my York job. It's going to show me my budgeted monthly hours versus my forecasted hours. And it's going to show me my variance. So right now as it stands, I'm looking at my variance shows to be 60 hours under budget, which is obviously phenomenal. Now if I go through the days of the week here, the first day of the month, which was shows the different days of the week as well, Monday, it shows that I had an actual amount of 41 hours. So remember how this works is it's going to show you the current day and yesterday is going to be averaged, but with that, it's going to be part of that 2-day lag. So being today, the 9th and 10th is going to be averaged going forward to the end of the month, and anything prior to the 9th is going to be shown as actuals. Now the way, if you look at this also, this forecast hours by job list view, you'll notice that under the number of days of the number of days up here, you'll have a letter A, and you also have letter E's. The A's are going to denote that those are the actual days, so you can actually see actual hours, and the E's obviously are going to be for your averages going forward to the end of the month. But right now, as it stands on the 9th and 10th being averaged hours, I should average 42 and 44 hours respectively on those 2 days. So once again, this is a daily hours, essentially by day, so you can actually help you forecast kind of what should be occurring here. All right, so kind of going through, you'll see the different views. Now, if you notice here, I'll point out a couple of the weekends, like the 20th and 21st, and also the 27th and 28th. These are averages based on what you've done on the last 5 weeks on Saturday and Sunday. You haven't worked any hours on Saturday and Sunday, so the system is not expecting you and will not forecast any hours for you on those days. Going back to, once again, that 5-week kind of recurring average. All right, so I'm going to go back out of here. I'm going to go ahead and close this view, and I'm going to go back to the overview screen. So I'm just looking at these questions here. Give me 1 second. All right, let me see here. All right. So kind of going furthermore on this, you see there's other views available for you. We want to look down over here on the next view, which is the bottom right-hand corner. And that particular view is referred to right now as jobs without budgets. Now that jobs without budgets section, the jobs without budget section essentially, it's going to show you a listing of all your budgets within your area of access that are obviously coming that are coming in without a budget. So if I double click on that particular metric, right now it's showing me that as my access shows me that I have 89 budgets that meet this criteria. One thing I will point out is my earlier conversations with one of the other offices, one of our other teams in the field, they were noticing that particular box only had a little triangle at the bottom right-hand corner where that little refreshing indicator should be appearing. Well, it comes to find out that reason for that is because that particular box had nothing that met the criteria for that particular office. So in that case, they had no jobs without a budget. So in that case, the system is almost conflicting with itself. It's going to put a little triangle there that's going to have a little exclamation point in the middle of it, letting you know that there's nothing that meets that criteria for that box. So if you ever see a triangle there, don't panic. It's basically meaning that you've actually done pretty well. All right. So if I double click on that particular jobs without budget box or panel, that's going to actually drill down and actually allow me to see those 89 jobs that do not have a budget. Now, one of the things you can actually do here, once again, you can resize your window as needed. Notice how my two red money bags up there came in a little smaller view. At the bottom of the page, you'll see the refreshing indicator going, and then it pops in a listing of all those jobs that don't have a budget. Now, the big takeaway from this is obviously any job you see on here doesn't have a budget in the system, but it could be for good reason. Maybe this job is not an active job. Maybe we lost this job. In any case, anytime we have to make a note that anytime we lose a job, you have to call the operational support group and let them know the last day worked for that job. So they can go in here and set it up and make sure they put in a proper inactive date. That inactive date is important because obviously we need to know what jobs are inactive and which jobs we should be expecting budgets for. But bottom line, if you go through here, you'll be able to quickly see on the jobs that have no budget, you'll be able to see your job information. You'll see the start date. You'll be able to see the forecast amounts, the actual amounts, the actual work. So those actual amounts are important because it actually shows you that they were actually working at these jobs. So we must have some reason to there's got to be a reason to have a budget for it. So once again, this is just the jobs without budget list view, to which also I can actually drill down into those variety of different levels if I need to from here. So from here, if I wanted to go into the American Girl Nashville and drill down into my labor budget, which obviously you could, or more importantly, I want to drill down into the actual timesheet view, I could do that from here as well. And one thing I'll point out is from the main overview screen, you'll see two sections on the far right that look very similar, obviously on the far left as well. The far right here, these two, the one we looked at just now, the bottom right-hand corner, those are fixed and square foot jobs. The top right-hand corner looks very similar, but this is your cost plus events and everything else. So these, once again, are always separated into different views. The next little panel, right to the left of where we're just at, it has a green clock. That green clock is labeled as overtime percent. This is telling us what is your overtime percentage, what is the percentage of overtime you're running right now for the month of August. So in this particular case, when I go in here, it shows me that I have a 1.4% overtime percent for all the jobs that I have access to. So right now as a company, we're running about a 1.4% overtime rate. If I go in here and double click on that particular time clock, I will then actually go in here and now be able to see all the companies. And then this is mine because I have access to all the different locations. But I'll just use an example of Memphis just because it's the first on the list. Right now they're running at a total of 15,500 plus hours, of which 73 of those hours, 73 and change of those hours are overtime. That means that they are running a 0.5%. Whereas if I go a little further down, you'll notice that Central Missouri down here is running about 10,000 hours, of which 400 of those hours are, which means they're a little higher at a 4%. So kind of looking at that, just keep in mind you have a clear view of your overtime. Now, if I wanted to, I could right-click on this particular company as well and actually drill down and see my overtime by project, by district, by job, etc. So from the Memphis perspective, if I wanted to go and see all the districts for Memphis, and they have only 2 districts, you can kind of see where the overtime is. 65 hours in one, 8 in the other, and there's your breakout. So once again, OT percent gives you a kind of good big picture of how you're doing with your overtime at your company area or down to your district or job level or even project level. The last 2 metrics that are on this particular overview page on the far left-hand side, those are the variance numbers. Once again, two gray cylinders. Both of them look very similar. Only difference is the top one looks at cost plus and looks at events, progress, all those special other types. And then down at the bottom left are your fixed fee and square footage entries or jobs. So to that, we're going to go ahead and double click once again on the square footage and fixed fee jobs. We're going to go ahead and drill into that data. And when I do that, the system will start. You'll see the little refresh indicator going. It's going to start refreshing the data, and it's going to take me to the list view, where it's going to show me all the information I need to figure out why I'm at 485,000 in variance. So what this is actually telling me is that the rest of the month were to stay as is, and based on our forecast, I'm set to do as a company make 485,272 on fixed fee and square footage jobs. Now, kind of going through here, obviously, since we're at a big picture, you're going to drill down first to your company level. Obviously, if you can only see your company, you're going to see your company listed here. But from that, I can take Memphis as an example as well. You can kind of see that there right now, their variance alone is 32,885. But if I scroll down a little bit more, you'll see some other sites that are missing that mark. But keep in mind, a lot of factors are figured into this. Once again, if, for example, DC Metro shows 142,000, that is probably wrong because we saw earlier, I believe that BAE Systems job belongs to the DC Metro, and they didn't have a labor budget. Sorry, they didn't have a budget in the system. So we need to go in there and make sure that that budget is updated for starters. And then from there, we can get a better picture of where exactly we are at. But if I wanted to go into labor by company here, and once I'm in here and I'm looking at the different variances, I can actually drill down to a summary labor by job. So I can right-click on Memphis, go to summary labor by job, and actually see the breakout of those jobs under Memphis. And once again, you'll see the refresh indicator going off there on the far right-hand side. Just give it about 10 seconds here. And there you go. And there are your jobs. So at this point, I can then see all my different jobs. And if I wanted to at this point, I could take pen mark being the first one on the list, right-click on that job, and drill down to the timesheet like we did earlier. At this point, I can go drill down to the timesheet, and we'll actually see all the timesheet entries for pen mark. And once again, I can go through here and see every day of the week, which is the date column, the hours that were accumulated for that particular day, and the amount that was or is due to the employee based on their pay rate on the far right-hand side. So I can go through and see that total hours for pen mark was 258, total amount or total labor is 2,040, and so forth. Now from this view, I can actually go back one step back to the labor by job, and as I did before, I can right-click and do daily hours again. So at daily hours, I have the ability now to see pen mark by day. I'm keeping in mind my actuals. With that 2-day lag, I have my actuals at the beginning of the month, obviously. Today minus 2, and then averages from going forward to the end of the month. So this is kind of just the different panels of information that are available for you all from the overview screen. And I know I'm a little over time here, but I'll wrap up here in about 5 minutes, so just bear with me. And this one's still pointing, but this is the same view we showed earlier where it shows you by day. So you can see your actuals and your averages by day for this particular job. All right, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to my main screen here. And when I'm back at my main overview window, which is my first page of this workspace, going back to my table of contents, there are some other pages, and I'm just going to point them out. I'm not actually going to go through them. I'm going to go through 5 and 6 here. But 2 and 3 will show you your labor set up, obviously initially by a company, which you can drill down. but it's going to show you by category. So you can actually go in there and see that information by category. 4, it's going to show you all your work order for square foot, fixed and square foot scenarios. So anytime you use a work order, it'll be kind of essentially tagged there that you can actually view. 5, production rate. So as I mentioned a while ago, for your construction jobs, if I go in here, I can see all of my, sorry, not construction, my janitorial jobs, sorry. All my janitorial jobs, I can go through here and see all of my production rates as it was calculated by the system. So I'm going to use the first one example here just to quickly point this out. Like Commerce Square, their production rate is simply 831, of which they have calculated hours of 515. And so far this month, they've had 9 work days. So out of the 10 days of the month, they've worked 9. And total square footage is 47,595. And then you have a right now no vacant square footage. But if I scroll down through the list here, I will find that there are a few that have some square footage opened or available. So like right here, 5,000. Right now we have 315,000 total square footage currently in play, of which the full building is 375, and of which we have 59,000 that's currently vacant. So as I go through here, it actually also populates our production rates. It gives us our fixed budgeted price, gives us our full occupancy budgeted price, and kind of gives us a vacancy credit rate. So we actually know what our rate, in this case, is 7 cents for this job over in Houston. Real quickly, that was the production rates. And once again, this is only available for jobs that are janitorial, and this does not take into consideration the day services or kind of day porter tasks. And then lastly is monthly usage. And monthly usage here looks at everybody and looks at their usage. So for those GMs on this phone call, if you want to find out if your district managers are using this, or for those managing directors that may be on the phone call that want to know if their general managers are looking at the data, this listing will show you all the employees, and I can scroll down through the list, and it's still trying to pull in the rest of the names in here. But I'm going to use me as an example. This tells me that I've logged in 21 times, but it goes more importantly by day. So on the first day of the month, I logged in once. Second day of the month, I logged in 4 times, etc. And then I didn't log into this on the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 5th, 6th, or 7th. But then I was back on it on the 8th, 9th, and obviously on the 10th today. So you can kind of see a breakout of this usage. It is important that this is a highly visible tool. We want everyone to use it. So everyone's watching. We want to make sure that everyone's using it on a daily basis. So that we added this page last week as part of our version 2. That way you had visibility to see the users that were out there and their usage. So you have that at your disposal. You have that as an option to be able to monitor that. So all in all, that is kind of a quick run through, and maybe not so quick, an hour and a half run through plus of the monthly labor forecast workspace, aka dashboard. And as I mentioned, it's very important that we're making sure that we're going on a daily basis. We're going in there and using this as a tool to make sure that we have the proper budget information in there. Make sure that we are catching those fixed fee and square footage jobs and making sure that they are right on track. And at the end of the month, obviously, you're going to be able to be, there's no surprises now. We won't be shocked. You're actually be hopefully more pleasantly surprised that you've actually stayed under budget. And my computer just actually on perfect time decided to run out of battery. Are actually wrapping up here. But with that, I open up. If you have any questions, any concerns, there are a few questions that I was going to answer, and they just dropped off my screen. So I'll address those one-on-one with you shortly after I get back to my desk. But